Hello, I'm Christine and I'd like to introduce you to the beautiful world of parchment craft. In the next hour I'll be showing you the basic techniques which are very simple and easy to grasp, and provided you practice them well you'll be able to achieve beautiful works of art such as these. There are several brands of tools on the market. I tend to prefer using the Australian tools, but you should be able to produce the same result with whatever brand you choose. Right then, if we like to begin, we start off with a sheet of parchment, or some people call it vellum, which is like this. It's translucent, which means that you can see through it. And we're going to have a basic pattern such as this, and we're going to attach our parchment to the pattern using Scotch magic tape or low tack tape. We take a little bit of the tape and we turn it and roll it so that it makes a little tube. This makes it tacky each side, and we attach it to 2 or 3 parts of the pattern, and it becomes like double-sided tape. This pattern here is going to end up like this card here. We have a mapping pen like this, and in here is an old jewellery case. Inside is some wet sponge, just the ordinary sponge that you use in the kitchen, cut to shape and kept wet. We then have our bottle of white ink, which we shake really well. So we have our wet sponge, mapping pen and white ink. We wipe both sides of the nib on the white sponge. This enables the white ink to flow down the nib and onto your parchment, making it easy to trace. And we do that each time we want to trace. So wipe, dip, trace. And we work our way over the whole of the pattern. The next thing we need to do, when we've traced the whole of the picture, is with a ruler and a white pencil, trace the fold line with a white pencil and the edge of the card. We remove the parchment from the pattern, and there's our trace design. We're now going to start to emboss, remembering to put the lid on the ink because they're very easy to spill. Turn the parchment over to the back, and this is an old candle or night light that I keep just for working on the back of the parchment. Very, very, very lightly skim across the surface that you're going to be embossing. Don't press too hard, otherwise it can show through the other side. This is a medium ball tool, and when we emboss round circles or dots such as this, emboss up and down first of all, across the centre of the little circle, and then around and around. And if you say that every time you do a dot, You can't go wrong. Up and down, round and round, up and down, round and round. Now this particular ball tool is too big for the smaller dots, so we then change to a smaller tool, such as this, a small ball tool. So that the leaves turn white. So there we have our leaves, nice and solid, and our flower and the dots. And here it is, completed. We're now going to start the ribbon. And because the ribbon is bigger, we use a bigger tool. And this is the large ball tool. Now when we have long areas such as this, we don't want to be scribbling the embossing in because it turns out all lumpy bumpy. So we start at the top and do a complete stroke right to the bottom. Again, don't press too hard because we can build up the whiteness slowly by going over and over. And here we have it completed. Now to add an extra dimension to the ribbon, we can go back to our small ball tool and where the ribbon folds, we can very, very gently just do light little feathery strokes to make the shape look as though it's really folding over. Now we're going to do the hearts. Going to go back to the medium ball tool and just outline. And it's exactly the same with the outline. We don't go backwards and forwards. We try and complete one side of the heart with one stroke. Do it 2, 3 or maybe even 4 times so that the ink line is disappearing into the embossing. Now that was quite simple, wasn't it? Quite easy and quite quick to do. A very simple little easy card, but now we're just going to add to it by putting a little bit of colour in the hearts and in the centres of the flowers so that it looks like this. And to do that, we turn onto the back of the card, and with any colouring pencil at all, we can just fill in the backs of the hearts quite simply, as though you were filling in a child's colouring book. Very pretty. And also on the back, the centres of each little flower. Now I'm going to show you how to complete the card and make it look real good. I'm going to remove the embossing mat, turn to the back and use our medium ball tool and the ruler, and we're just going to score along the fold line and fold. Now don't worry at this point if the sides don't meet. The fold line is the all-important line where you fold the card, and when the card is finally cut with a guillotine, you'll find that it will be straight, although it's not straight on the edges. And we're going to decide which side of the card looks best inside the card. Now we can choose that side, or we can choose that side. Now I tend to favour blues and purples in my cards, so I'm going to use that side of the card. And I'm going to show you how to cut the card and sew in the insert. So we have our guillotine. If you haven't got a guillotine, you can of course use a ruler and a craft knife on a cutting mat to cut your card. I tend to prefer this because when the card is finished, you can hardly see it. Don't think that you can use glues, because most glues will show through the parchment and eventually dry and come away from the insert. It's much more professional and you get a much nicer look if you sew it in. So we open up the card and we use a needle, use a large needle so you get a nice sized hole, to perforate a hole down through the centre, and another one approximately an inch either side. So we have the 3 holes. Put your needle through the first hole, up the centre, and down the 3rd hole. Later on, I'll show you how to make an envelope for your card, because many Parchment craft cards are not the size of regular envelopes that you can buy. So I'll show you how to make an envelope that will match your card. I hope you enjoyed that.